we're switching to cricket now on the SportsMax Zone. The West Indies have completed match practice ahead of their two-test series against Pakistan after playing out a draw in their three-day tour match against the home side's A team at the weekend. Now, Alec Athanaze followed up his first innings at 99 with an unbeaten 58 in the second to lead the Windies batters in both innings of 346 for 8 declared and 177 for 5 declared. Spinner Kevin Sinclair led the West Indies bowling with figures of 3 for 50 to restrict Pakistan 8 to 212 for 9 declared in their first innings. Sinclair had help from Jaden Seals 2 for 16 and Gudakesh Moti 2 for 21 as opener Mohammad Harara led the Pakistani response with 74. Meanwhile, another spinner, Jamil Warrikan, 2 for 23, was the lone wicket taker for the visitors in the second innings as the home side got to 128 for 2, led once again by Herrera, who scored 80. Now, ahead of Friday morning start of the series, that's 12:30 Jamaica time, 1:30 Eastern Caribbean time. Warrikan has admitted to expecting spin-friendly conditions, but has also stressed the importance of being patient.
Don't get carried away with the conditions. Still gotta stick to the basics. You gotta be disciplined. You gotta put the balls in the right areas and just wait for something to happen sometimes and not get too caught up in being overly aggressive because you could get carried away thinking like spinning conditions, and we as spinners have to be 100% aggressive, but just have a balance and sticking to the basic and be very, very disciplined.
Yeah, cricket commentator Fazir Mohammed now joins us via Zoom to assess what is going on. Faz, welcome again to the show. I want to start by asking you what you thought of the Pakistan squad. I mean, a lot being made about the fact that it is spin heavy. I mean, we all know that the West Indies have struggled against spin for a long time, but in truth, this West Indies side has struggled against quality bowling. So what do you make of what is happening here?
I think basically what we're seeing from Pakistan is that they're going with the winning formula from the series against England. As I'm sure you'll recall, towards the end of last year, they hosted England, lost the first test heavily, and then decided that they would go with raging turners for the next two test matches and pack the side with spinners. Sajid Khan and Noman Ali were the frontline spinners, and they won the series for Pakistan. So quite obviously, they are going with the same game plan. It's back-to-back test matches at the same venue in Multan. West Indies have not played test match cricket there since 2006, which was actually Brian Lara's last test series. So it's a long, long time ago to have played test match cricket at those venues. They've played white ball cricket in Pakistan 2 or 3 times over the last 5 or 6 years, either side of the pandemic. But clearly, from Pakistan's point of view, just coming out of South Africa where they packed their team with pacers and now have rested all of them, basically they are going the way of spin for these 2 test matches.
Yeah, fair enough. What I would give, though, fans to see Brian Lara live again, including on this Pakistan tour, but I digress. Anyhow, serious question now. Amir Jango, he had a very good first innings in the warm-up match. Do you see a place for him in the West Indies 11 come Friday morning?
It really depends on what the selectors are thinking, because if you really look at the composition, let's go with an idea for an 11. You've got the captain Craig Brathwaite, you've got Mikhail Loon, you've got Casey Carty at 3, Alec Athanaze at 4, Kavem Hodge at 5. I think that is pretty much settled unless you want to shake things up a little bit. So who do you go with at 6? Are you going a debut for Amir Jango? Are you going for Justin Graves? Someone who might give you some runs and do a bit of stop bowling in conditions that could really be testing for the fast bowlers. Then you've got Joshua De Silva and your 4 bowlers. I see my 4 bowlers as Kimar Roach, Jaden Seals, Gudakesh Moti, and
Warrikan.
And Jomel, well, not necessarily Jomel Warrikan. I might go with Kevin Sinclair.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking to give myself the off-spinner, left-arm spinner variety, to give myself those options. So Warrikan and, of course, Moti are 2 left-arm spinners. Doesn't mean that it's wrong to pick 2 bowlers of the same style, but I would be inclined towards Sinclair and Moti at this point. But But having said that, as I said before, looking at the situation, I'm thinking that maybe Django might play, but again, I think it's depending on how they think in terms of the squad.
Yeah, and I guess also with a Kevin Sinclair fan, since you mentioned that he would lengthen the batting as well, because I suspect that that will be in the back of the minds of the selectors, have as much batting as possible, because we know how quickly this West Indies batting lineup can disintegrate.
That's correct, and I mean we have to be real about it. It might sound defensive, but again you have to be practical, based on the resources that you have, based on their known qualities and abilities or lack thereof, and therefore you might think in terms of, okay, if I'm going to choose between these two bowlers, who's likely to give me more runs, and that might come into the consideration as well.
Yeah, and speaking about consideration, how much scrutiny will our Test captain be under Craig Brathwaite? And I'm not only speaking about his captaincy, but of course his own individual performance. Faz, we've been discussing this for quite some time.
He's going to be under considerable scrutiny. Yes, he's closing on 100 Test matches, but no one is entitled to a free 2 or 3 Test matches just to get to 100. I remember the great Curtly Ambrose bowing out at 98 Test matches in England in the year 2000. And when he was asked, well, you just need 2 more to reach 100. And he said he doesn't play for stats. He doesn't play for numbers. He plays for that passion and that love for the game, and he just didn't have it anymore. In the same case, Craig Brathwaite clearly has that passion, that love for the game, and he wants to get to 100 Test matches. But if he's not getting any runs, if he's continuing to struggle, you've got to look at other options. The question is, are there any viable options out there in the regional game with the season about to start at the end of January? And on the captaincy side, yes, that is always a concern, because from the very outset, when he took over the captaincy full time 4 years ago for that tour of Bangladesh, when Jason Holder, the regular captain, opted out, it was felt that Craig was too defensive minded and so on. But he won 2 Test matches and came away with that series, drew the series in the Caribbean. So therefore, things were going well. But of course, we know the general standard of West Indies cricket, and those technical flaws and those technical shortcomings and defensive posturing would have shown up over time. So yes, it's about his batting, because he can't just be a captain and not scoring runs, never mind looking towards 100 Test matches, and also how he's going to handle the team in these situations.
Yeah, Andre Coley will be overseeing this last Test match, of course, as head coach. You know, he just spoke about just building on what they would have started working on already. Faz, how important is, that he ends his tenure as well with a bang? Because, I mean, as a coach and as any professional, he will be looking for other opportunities after. So, how important is it for him as well as his final Test match in charge of the West Indies, at least for now?
Well, when we were having this discussion at the time, when Darren Sammy was appointed as the Red Ball coach as well, and I said the timing was terrible, given the fact that you've got Andre Coley as your lame duck, essentially. But as you said quite correctly, he would have his own aspirations in coaching, even though he might be seconded to work at the Cricket West Indies level in another capacity. But clearly, if he wants any inspiration, and we talked about this as well, Gus Logie was already on the way out. Bennett King, the Australian, to replace him in 2004, and he won the Champions Trophy, famously with that 9th wicket partnership between Courtney Brown and Ian Bradshaw at the Oval in London in gloomy conditions in 2004. So that may be a bit of inspiration. He may have his own internal inspiration to say, look, I'm a professional, I'm a qualified coach, it's been a difficult challenge, my number is up already as far as...
All right, Faz froze on us, sir.
Yeah. Usually he gets back to us in short order, so let's give him a couple of seconds and we'll have him back, as we do now.
And there seems to be something wrong with the internet on this side. I've got to get it sorted out at some time. But to cut a long story short, Lance, basically what I was saying is that I think there are enough avenues for motivation for Andre Coley. His personal professionalism, his own aspirations, wanting to make a mark, wanting to make a point. Maybe he feels aggrieved about the way it's been handled, but wouldn't say so publicly. But the best way to respond is to get your team to perform on the field, as difficult as it might be.
Yeah, and in a pre-match interview, I saw him, Faz, and he pretty much sidestepped that question about his legacy and so on. He, as you suggested just now, even if he has that feeling internally, it's not something that he would verbalize right now. He has a job to do, and as far as he's concerned, he will do the job to the best of his ability, and he will talk about his legacy after his contract ends. That's pretty much what he had said, didn't he?
Yes, and that's the mature thing to do, Lance. You don't want to be washing dirty linen in public on the eve of a couple of test matches. You don't want to stir the pot. And maybe he's not even the personality to do that anyway. And therefore, the primary focus has to be these two test matches getting underway. It can't be about Andre Coley. It can't be about Darren Sammy. It can't be about Cricket West Indies and whatever they're doing or they're not doing. It has to be about focusing about his team and getting them ready technically and mentally for these test matches, which are going to be a challenge. It's going to be a very different challenge from playing in South Africa or Australia or English conditions. It could be a sort of a grinding sort of an environment with a war of attrition, as it's often referred to, and that requires reserves of patience and discipline, as we heard from Jomel Warrican, about doing the right things consistently for quite some time and then hopefully getting the reward.
Yeah, and Alec Athanaze, who got runs in the tour match, Faz, suggested, well, he spoke with confidence about his own ability to play spin and the issue of West Indies having trouble playing high-quality spin has been well documented. Do you agree with him that he is very competent at playing high-quality spin bowling, and how much quality exists in the team beyond him?
Well, he looks competent. The run suggests that he has a level of competence. But I think Alec Athanaze's biggest challenge is within his own mind and his own understanding of where he needs to be as a test match cricketer, because he's had a couple of 90s. He had a 99 in this tour match. I think Alec Athanaze needs to appreciate that he has it in him to be the fulcrum of West Indies batting. And being the fulcrum of West Indies batting doesn't mean averaging 30 odd, or averaging 27, or averaging 38. If you want to be a proper test match batter and to be considered as such in the global game, you've got to get hundreds, you've got to get big hundreds, you've got to get them regularly, you've got to get them where they need it, and if you want to take a page from Craig Brathwaite's book, you've got to value your wicket, not give it away playing poor shots. Yes, sometimes we see much more inventiveness. Sam Constas is of the Australian team is a classic case in point, as my grandsons in the background try to distract me. But still, they've got to do, in the case of Alec Athanaze, they've got to basically say, look, this is about test match cricket, and 25-30, 35-40 is not good enough. It might help as far as your average, it might be good enough for the mediocrity that is West Indies cricket, but Alec Athanaze, Casey Carty, Kavem Hodge, whoever else is going to be in that middle order, they must tell themselves what they are doing now is not good enough.
Yeah, well, Faz, I couldn't agree with you more, but thanks to you and your company for joining us today on the SportsMax Zone. And of course, we'll be chatting a lot more throughout the course of this series. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah, of course, a lot of cricket coming up. The West Indies versus Pakistan Test Series. There is also the ICC Under-19 Women's World Cup, which starts later this week as well. And that West Indies-Bangladesh series, West Indies Women versus Bangladesh Women in St. Kitts, which starts on Sunday with the first one-day international. So we'll be talking quite a lot of cricket in the coming weeks. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.